Ballet began about 600 years ago, in the 15th or 16th century in Italy. However, it soon spread to France, where its terminology developed, and then expanded exponentially into Russia. It grew as an art form in Europe, where it has a rich history. However, it was really only brought to the United States in the last century through the efforts of George Balanchine. Balanchine came to America in 1933, only 87 years ago, showing how recent ballet is to America compared to other countries. When it came to the U.S., it stayed mainly in the more metropolitan areas, like New York City and other areas in the East. These years of history have created an intangible barrier of ballet's influence. This barrier kept ballet's influence from smaller areas in the western United States. Willam Christensen, a boy from a small town in Utah, would bring this classical art form to the western United States, breaking the intangible barrier in ballet. Willam Christensen was born in Brigham City, Utah on August 27, 1902, which had an estimated population of 2,000 to 3,000 people at the time. He was born into a musical family that descended from Utah pioneers. One day his uncle, Peter Christensen, came to Brigham City with 3 ballerinas. Christensen later stated that he thought, "It might be nice to dance. The girls look good to me. And besides, they were graceful." While he was young, Christensen was introduced to a mentor who would further inspire his ambitions, Stefano Masgano. Masgano was an Italian teacher who greatly influenced Christensen's style as a dancer and as a choreographer. Christensen was referring to Masgano's ballet school when he stated, "I would say that his was the first legitimate school in America." Another teacher who greatly influenced him was the reputable Mikhail Fokin, a famous Russian teacher who choreographed ballets such as The Dying Swan, Petrushka, Les Sylphides, and The Firebird. When being interviewed, Christensen stated that he didn't like the Italian method. He wanted everything freer. "It affected me very much. It was just the opposite of what I'd learned, but I enjoyed it." Christensen used his education in ballet to perform in vaudeville with his brother Lou. They began their career around 1927. The audiences loved them. They eventually moved farther east and performed in New York City. They performed with dancers such as Wayora Stoney and Minot Lee, who eventually became Christensen's wife. They became the Christensen brothers. It was a brilliant career that lasted throughout the 1920s. A national newspaper, the Billboard, wrote in 1931, "This type of dancing is so successfully avoided because it is so difficult that it is a refreshing thing when done well." In 1937, he moved to San Francisco, California. He worked for the San Francisco Opera, choreographing dances for them. This was called the San Francisco Opera Ballet until 1942, when it developed into the San Francisco Ballet, a company still performing to this day. It was here that he set his own choreography to music from Coppelia, another famous ballet in 1939. It was the company's first full-length ballet. In 1940, he produced the first production of Swan Lake in America. It was here in San Francisco where he said, "Ballet should not have to wear a European label to be accepted." On December 24, 1944, he premiered his choreography of The Nutcracker. It was the first full-length production of the ballet in the United States. This production inspired other productions that are still being performed to this day. In late 2019, Ballet West celebrated their 75th anniversary of the ballet, showing that they have the longest-running production in the United States. Jocelyn Volmore, who performed as the first Snow Queen, recalled, "We were blissfully ignorant of making history. All we wanted to do was dance." Christensen's next huge accomplishment began when he moved back to Utah in 1951. The University of Utah had invited him to be the head of their new ballet department as professor of ballet. This established the first ballet academic major at a university in the United States. Known affectionately as Mr. C, Christensen continued to teach his students as the organization grew. His students performed in the University of Utah Ballet Theater, which later became Utah Civic Ballet. This professional ballet company would continue to grow and contribute to the community through artistic demonstrations and teaching the public about ballet. They also performed all varieties of ballet, from tragic works to comedies. These shows could bring a positive impact on the community and a positive impact on the young children who were enchanted by what they saw. Today, the Utah Civic Ballet is known as Ballet West. Ballet West has since grown into one of the largest ballet companies in the United States. They are a living legacy of Willam Christensen and his fabulous work. They continue what he started by creating wonderful productions to show to the community and to international visitors. The company has a varied repertoire of performances and an academy that teaches students so that they can become professional dancers. The company continues to showcase and teach ballet to the Western United States and anyone else who visits them. Christensen retired as artistic director of Ballet West in 1975, but he continued to teach for the rest of his life. Several of his students referred to him as a wonderful teacher. He was well known for wanting to develop his students' personalities in their dancing. Jocelyn Volmore, a student he taught at San Francisco Ballet, said of him that he was always trying to make us sell it when we danced. He'd urge us to, quote, make it interesting enough so that someone would want to look at it and buy it as if it were for sale. He was also a humorous teacher who was fun to work with. When a student accidentally used the wrong arm in one exercise, Christensen replied, "You lifted your arm this way, and the rest of the class did it that way. Well, maybe you're just a Democrat in a Republican town." He also complimented how one student seemed to doubt himself. He said, "Ted, you did that exercise much better today. I remember the last time we tried it, you got so depressed that you went home and bought a cat." Janice James recalled that he wasn't a very technical teacher, but he focused on what really mattered, a true love of dance. His students became Ballet West. Willam Christensen passed away on October 14, 2001, when he was 99 years old. His legacy lives through the growth of his companies, San Francisco Ballet and Ballet West. He was a dancer, a teacher, a choreographer, and a friend. The performances he gave and the lessons he taught broke the intangible barrier by giving new people a chance to see and learn a wonderful new art form. An article from the San Francisco Gate in 2001 stated that Willam Christensen and his brothers, Lou and Harold, quote, sowed the seeds of classical dance all across the continent, finding a hospitable soil where a European art form might take root, and their legacy endures. As former principal of Ballet West, Janice James Nelson recalled,
"Several years ago, on his 90th birthday, I went down to Salt Lake to his birthday party. It was a huge, huge crowd, big place full of people. And they said, we would like everyone who has either gone on to teach or worked with Mr. C at some point as a dancer or teaching or choreographing somewhere to please stand up." And you couldn't believe how many people, almost everyone in the place, stood up. Now all of these people, all of these students have gone on to other small towns in the West and in the East Coast to open studios, some of them companies. So many of his Mr. C's dancers went on to other places to develop big schools and done important choreography, started companies. So the influence of the Christensens on ballet in America is just remarkable.
As author Laurel Snyder wrote about ballet, "If only every dance could end in such sweet applause."